Mbonata Tanzambia Manzulu. I am Nabi Kefas. Thank you for tuning in. Today we have another very special interview with Dr. Luyaluka. Right before I go there, just want to give you some information on who Dr. Luyaluka is. He has done many years of research in the divine metaphysics, and he now teaches his own approach of metaphysical healing and the fight against witchcraft within the frame of the Institute, the Science Anemique. Hallelujah. So I'm very pleased to have with us again Dr. Luyaluka. Good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Yes. Today we're talking about Nkisi. So I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, as you have done years of research and you know the Congo tradition and history. And, and I believe that our viewers who are the diaspora of the Bakongo and the generations of children who live in the diaspora, many of us, when we hear the word Nkisi, fear enters, as this word Nkisi has been synonymous with witchcraft. But you will tell us the origin and the true semantic and meaning of the word Nkisi. So I give the platform to you, sir.
Thank you so much. I thank you, Nabi Kefas, from the depth of my heart for inviting me to join again this platform in order to speak to your dear audience about the Congo Mystery Schools. In the previous shows, I have spoken about the Congo Schools of Mystery Teachings. I described them. I described their nature, organization, and curriculums. I insisted on the fact that as schools of mystery teachings, the Congo Academies that essentially comprise the Kimpasi, the Lemba, and the Kinkimba were first of all schools of religion, schools of divine mystery teaching. Now, at their encounter with the Western missionaries in the 15th century, religion was defined by the Congo people as the Kisi Nsi.
Kisi Nsi.
That is the use of the divine spirits in order to increase one's spiritual power, in order to become back the manifest child of God one has been in heaven prior to his original bad use of his God-given free will. This implies that for the Congo people or the Congo initiates, you and I are in reality right now children of God, the expressions, the manifest expressions of the Logos, the fullness of the divinity. However, sin pretends to have reduced this divine nature, the Osiris nature, to a mere potential state. Hence, the need of the purification of thought, which is taught in the African traditional initiatory academies. The manifest expression of the Logos in Bukongo, the Congo religion, is a practical attainment that leads to the healing of oneself and of humanity. Let me first illustrate these capital points. As I said, the manifest expression of the Logos in the Congo is a practical attainment that leads to the healing of oneself and of humanity. Years ago, I was digging a hole in order to repair a sewage pipe. So the hole reached 3-meter depth. Then I realized that I made a mistake. As an architect, I will never place that sewage pipe at that depth. So I prayed, being in the hole, 3-meter depth. I said, Father, show me the pipe. And I hear a source telling me, turn back. So I turned on my back and I saw a stone. Upon uncovering that stone, which was at 2-meter deep, I realized that it was the pipe I was looking for. And at that point, I made a mistake. I dug horizontally around the pipe. As I was pondering how to fix that pipe, the hole collapsed. In a twinkling of the eye, I was buried. Only the air and the left hand remained visible. The whole body, the nose, the mouth, the eyes were all under the earth. Even with the mouth under the soil, I could speak. So I shouted to my nephew who was nearby. He came in and I told him, dig first the head. As he began to dig the head, the hole collapsed again and the air disappeared. Only the left hand remained visible. At that point, I turned toward the ancestor in prayer. I knew that in such circumstance, you don't have to make a long prayer. You don't have to follow the schema I gave you last time, but you have to go directly to the affirmation and negations. But before beginning prayer, I hear clearly a voice telling me, you are going to die. There is nobody around to care for you. Because meanwhile, I told my nephew, go to seek succor. So he went and I was alone. I replied directly to that mental voice. I said, no, I'm not going to die. And divine science teaches that man doesn't die because life continues in the beyond. That was a weak argument because the voice spoke again and told me, yes, you are going to go and keep on living in the beyond. I said, no, even in the beyond, I won't go. I have a job to do here, God-given job. I cannot go. So that voice left me. Then I began to pray. I knew that as a child of God, I have the power to remedy to bad situation, to heal. So I had to use that power of the Logos. My prayer was essentially the Lord's Prayer. I used the Lord's Prayer. I was pondering that prayer word by word. When I said, Father, I realized that Mumbaloa, God the Creator, because prayer is not addressed to God the Most High. Prayers are addressed to the Creator and to lower divinities, including our holy ancestors. So I realized that my human father could not let me in such a situation. Mm-hmm. And God, who is infinitely more loving than my divine father, could not let me in such a situation. It was impossible. I said, which are in heavens. I realized that God is above any situation. So no good is impossible to him. Thy will be done on earth as in heavens. I didn't say on earth. I said, thy will be done in this whole as in heaven. So I realized just where I was covered by soil, God was there. The law of God was there, operating, caring for me. So I kept on praying this way, and eventually people came around in order to help me. They were first enlarging the hole, and meanwhile they had the idea of giving me a rope in order to pull me with a rope, which was impossible because I was stuck by more than 2 kilos of soil. And as I was refusing the rope, I could hear them say, okay, he's dying, he's waving us goodbye. Then I prayed again. I said, Father, show me what I should do in order for them to understand. They should first dig the head. And the thought came to me clear, dig it yourself, dig it out yourself. So with the hand that remained, I was taking benches of soil above my head and throwing. And when I repeated that gesture 3 times, someone understood. He came in and dug out the head. At that moment, I showed them the position of my right hand. They dug the right hand and they pulled me out. According to the people who were around, I made between 27 minutes to 35 minutes. So I made about 30 minutes underground. Let me stress here that for the African initiates of the divine mystery, the manifestation of the Logos is first of all a healing potency. So the initiates of Kefas, the Academy of Divine Mystery, were spiritual healers. Today, I intend to speak about the Congo Initiatory Academies as schools of Kisi and Hindoki. We all know that these 2 words have been so distorted, demonized as to mean fetish and witchcraft, which is a wrong rendition. So there is an imperious need to reestablish the true meaning of this word and to establish the connection with the Congo Academy of the Congo Initiatory Academies. To begin, let me speak first of the Congo Initiation and the notion of Nkisi. We have seen in our first shows that the word Nkisi must not be reduced to the meaning of fetish. something artificial. The word Nkisi has two meanings. First of all, Nkisi means power. In this denotation, it becomes in plural Minkisi. Secondly, Nkisi means spirits. And in this second denotation, it becomes in plural Bakisi. So we have two meanings of the same word. The concept of Kisi can be divine, human, or demonic. Thus, as schools of Nkisi, the Congo Academies were the means of developing the divine Nkisi, or the divine spiritual faculties, and the human Nkisi. But those academies were also the means of fighting the demonic Nkisi and its deleterious effects, its bad effects. Has divine power. The divine Nkisi was developed through the purification of thoughts. Therefore, this power could only be used in good purposes. To use them in evil ways will be to commit sin and will be to lose it. The divine Nkisi is the highest attainment in Congo religion. And it requires time, patience, perseverance, and persistence to be attained. If the divine initiation directly led the candidates to the acquisition of divine power, the divine Nkisi, through the means of purification, the human Nkisi was not a direct acquisition through the initiation process. The initiation process only prepared the candidates to be worthy of this Nkisi. The initiation gave the candidate the ethical base indispensable for the acquisition of the human Nkisi through money or inheritance. After his initiation, the initiate of the human level was well ethically equipped in order for him to buy a Nkisi for someone who did possess it or to inherit it for someone. So the initiation only prepared him to have the needed basis, while for the divine Nkisi, the purification directly led to the development of these Nkisi. So there is a difference between both the acquisition of both Nkisi, both Minkisi. Seen in the practical context, the Nkisi is the African traditional technology. Now, we have seen that the divine mystery was basic to the human ones. The initiate of the human mystery, be it the civil or the martial one, always started by divine teaching, by learning the divine mystery. So the divine mystery was basic to any knowledge, even in ancient ages. And to explain this schema, we must understand that the origin of a human Nkisi is in the divine mystery. The human Nkisi is a divine kisi perpetuated through faith in Mother and in the illuminated ancestors. Let me give here an example. Let us suppose that an initiate of a divine mystery has developed a case of telekinesis, which means that he can transport himself from a point to another instantly, which is called in Kikongo mvumuka. Now, we have learned that in order to attend the tuition in the initiatory school was very high, so that all the clan, all the members of the family have had to participate, so that any attainment by the initiate was an asset of the family, a possession of the family. It has to be perpetuated. So how this man will do in order to perpetuate his divine case of telekinesis? We know that when he reached such a power, which take time to be attained, usually he is old and he is eager to go in Pemba to the world of the ancestors. So he don't have time to perpetrate this through divine mystery, through purification. So he will use the human mystery. How he will do it? He will take an object as symbolizing his power of telekinesis, a material element. He will take someone, a young man in the family, who is worthy to possess this power. And he will give that man the needed ethical basis. Never do this, never do that, never do this, never do that. And he will be using his power of telekinesis by being with that young man, and with the young man holding the symbol. For the young man, he will believe that it is that symbol and the ancestors who are, why in reality, the old initiate is praying. He will repeat this many times, so that what will happen is that the faith of the young man will increase up to the time he will be able to use that power himself. Now, his power is a faith in a material thing and in the ancestor, while the power of the old man is essentially a faith in the Logos, in the divine spirit, the holy ancestors. The power of the old man can be used only in good purposes, because it is obtained for purification of thought, while the power of the young man can be used in good and evil purposes. However, the later use is forbidden. This is why ethical norms are put around that use. This is how the human cases were created. As long as the ethical norms attached to the human cases are maintained by the initiate, this power will be also maintained and transmissible from one generation to another. So it becomes an inheritance of the family. If it happens that the initiate fails to maintain the ethical norms attached to the use of the human casing, the ancestors will desert him and it will be the destruction of that human casing. At that point, the initiate may be attempted to replace enslaved spirits. In that case, the Nkisi becomes a demonic one. Such Nkisi either need to be abandoned or need to be purified in order for the presence of the illuminated ancestor may be regained. Now, let me speak about the Western distortion of the concept of Nkisi. As I have shown you, the concept of Nkisi was for the Congo people, first of all, a divine concept, and next a human concept, used in order to elevate the society through healing, because the human Nkisi and the divine Nkisi were our technology. So the question is how these came to be demonized, came to be spoiled. The missionary of the pre-colonized time well understood that for the Congo people, the Nkisi is their expression of the concept of religion. So that in the first book they wrote in Congo, a catechism which was printed in Madeira in Portugal in the 16th century, they used the word Nkisi to mean religion. The church was called Nzo Nkisi, which means the house of Nkisi. The Bible was understood as Nkanda Nkisi, the book of Nkisi. The word Nkisi was thus understood to include more than the reductive connotation of fetish, that is something artificial. The Congo scholar Bachikama agrees with this perception of the Nkisi as expressing the Congo concept of religion. Due to the discrepancies they discern in the behavior of the white missionaries, the Congo Initiates entered in an open conflict with the Catholic Church. Kimpavita was the young leader of these Congo movements. Realizing the convergence that exists between the Congo and the true Christianity, the primitive Christianity, the Congo Initiates developed their own discourse based on that convergence. In reaction, Kipavita had a huge success. And these brought jealousy from the Catholic priests. So in reaction to these successful movements, the white missionary developed a discourse of demonization concerning the notion of Nkisi and Kindoki. So they were saying that Nkisi means fetish and Kindoki was cornered to the meaning of witchcraft. This led the missionary of the colonial time, especially Holman Bentley, the missionary who came later. They rejected the use of the word Pungu in connection to the appellation of God, because God is called Nzambi and Mpungu to Lendo. Now, Mpungu and Nkisi are synonymous. So Bentley, the missionary of the Baptist Church, said, no, Nkisi means fetish how can the word of God be attached to the concept of fetish? Now, what he didn't know is that the original meaning of the word nkisi was not fetish. Hence, Bentley developed his own argument in order to remedy to what he felt to be an objectionable situation. And he said that in the word of God, Nzambi Pungu, Nzambi Pungu to land, the word Pungu, the component Pungu, stand for a superlative. Now, this suggestion is wrong, and we can demonstrate this in three manners: grammatically, anthropologically, and theologically. On the grammatical level first, in order to form a superlative in Kikongo, one has to use the verb sunda and luta, which mean to surpass. When we say the clever, the highest mountain in Kikongo, we will say mongo waluta ula. So we use luta or sunda, which is not the case in the word pungu tulendo. Pungu is not, it's not surpassed. The second thing is that the word which is supposed to be modified is always in singular. Now, in Mpungu tulendo, tulendo is the plural of lendo. So, the superlative approach doesn't work. Bentley was wrong. Mpungu tulendo means nkisi, and God has mpungu tulendo means that the nkisi, the power which includes all authorities. The second way to prove that Bentley was wrong is the anthropological approach. If we take the ethnography of Léo Bitremier, Léo Bitremier wrote a book about the martial initiation. His book is titled La Société secrète des Bankimba dans le Mayombe. In this book, on page 189, Bitremier gives us a hierarchy of the divine spirits, of the divine Nkisi. At the top of the hierarchy, he puts God. So he shows that God is a divine spirit, the highest transcendent divine spirit. God is Nkisi. At the second level, he puts the Bakinda, who are called also the Loa. In Egypt, they were called the Ra. In Asian voodoo, they are called Loas. These are potential and manifest creators. They are the celestial divine spirits. At the third level, we have the Bakisi, and the Bakisi are the temporal manifestation of the Bakinda, of the celestial spirits. So we have a hierarchy which shows that God is Nkisi. He is the highest Nkisi, which is called Pungu, Pungu Tulendo. The Nkisi, the power which includes all authority. At the theological level, Bentley was wrong because this notion of God as being Nkisi is not only found among the Congo people, it's found also among the Yoruba of Nigeria and among the Igbo. The Yoruba speaks of Aze, and the Igbo speaks of Chi. Now, the Chi is defined as a power, a spirit, the same as the Nkisi. And the highest Chi is God himself, Chineke. So you see, the concept of Nkisi is an African concept, a concept of the African traditional religion. Let me stress here that according to the hierarchy of divine spirits, and in a practical manner, since the Most High God is transcendence, the Logos, the fullness of the divinity, is the highest divine case. In the practical manner, the highest divine case is the Logos. This is the highest power to be attained by an initiate through the purification of thoughts. There is also a need to correct a mistake introduced by the African people themselves, who tries to explain the component mpungu as meaning eagle. We know that the eagle is called in Congo pong, but they extend that meaning in order to include pungu, and in order to say that God is an eagle. He is the heavenly eagle, or the eagle of heaven, which is wrong. There is no eagle in heaven. I think you may find this confusing. Let me explain it. We seem to be human beings, but in heaven, we are spiritual ideas. We are children of God. There are no human beings in heaven. The human being we seem to be here now are only the temporary expression of a spiritual idea. So is it with the eagle. There is no eagle in heaven. The eagle we see here are only a temporary representation of a spiritual idea in heaven. So there is no eagles of heavens. The ancient Egyptian never represented the Most High God, nor did the Sumerian, neither did the Sumerian. Now, let me speak about the Congo Academies as schools of Kindoki. The demonizing enterprise of the missionary involved also the concept of Kindoki, as it was deliberately reduced, confused to the notion of witchcraft. When you speak about Kindoki, many people directly say, oh, that means witchcraft. No, this is wrong. Witchcraft in Kikongo is Nsoki, Kinkadiampemba. The witch in Kikongo is a Kwansoki, not Ndoki. A correct semantic analysis proves that Kindoki means mystery knowledge. We have seen that the Congo Academies were schools of mystery teachings, the teaching of secret knowledge leading to illumination, which means Kindoki. This true meaning of the word Kindoki can be realized, can be demonstrated by analyzing words of the same family with Kindoki, words that contain the root D-O-K. And by analyzing these words in the context of traditional system of education, Education in pre-colonized time, that initiatory education in pre-colonized time and in ancient Egypt, involves 4 steps. First of all, the initiate had to die, to symbolically die. Secondly, second step, after dying, he will resurrect. He will rise in the beyond, in the world of the ancestors. And in the world of the ancestors, whose presence is symbolized by the presence of the initiators, he will now receive lessons, sacred lessons. That is the steps of the third step. And after he's being instructed, he will be reborn in the community as a new person. In a practical way, we can speak of 3 phases. The initiation included 3 phases. The first phase consisted in submitting the vile personality, and it included some steps where people had to endure some what can I say, tests that may seem to be difficult, very difficult, like circumcision, etc. The second phase was the first on instruction, and then the rebirth. So let us now see. There are words of Kindoki, words of the family of Kindoki that are related to all these 3 phases. The first phase, as I said, consisted in submitting the negative emotion and human will. One finds in the family of Ndoki words relating to submission. For example, do-kisa, which means to submit. Do-kama, which means to tilt. Do-ka, which means to bend. And from this last one, we have Ndoki, which means the one who is bent, the one who is submitted. So Ndoki doesn't mean which. In this phase, Ndoki means the one who has gone through a submission process. In this phase, the candidate was exhorted to submit painful tests, such as circumcision. He was then urged to show courage, endurance, and heroism. One finds in the family of Ndoki words related to exhortation, such as dokalala, which means be exalted, doka, persuaded. In the second phase, symbolizing life among the ancestors in Pemba, the holy word of the ancestors, the candidate learned the sacred lesson. This is the phase of education, of instruction, expressed through the following words. Kindokila. Kindokila is the slamming of 2 fingers in order to take the flute. It means also the one who asks questions, the fact of asking questions, the fact of learning. And we have also the word dokidika, which means to instruct. Once we draw kidokidika, which means to learn. And we draw from this word kidokidiki, a synonymous of ndoki, which means the one who learns. We have such pairs of words in Kikongo. For example, to obstruct is kaka or kakidika. To throw down heavily is lumba or lumbidika. So we have nkaki, synonymous of kikakidiki, the one who obstructs, and lumbi and kilumbidiki, the one who throws down heavily, and that we have ndoki and kidokidiki, the one who lures. So you see, ndoki doesn't mean the one, the which, but it means a student. And we have also the verb doka, which means to inculcate, to instruct. In the first phase, symbolizing the new birth, the initiate who has given up a vile personality is now reborn. His knowledge is extended, and his ethereal faculties are awakened or extended. Fu-kiau writes about this phase, and writing about this phase, he says, those who entered the Pueblo, one of the Congo Academy of Human Mystery, were made up around the eyes with lime, as a sign of increased sight or clarity. The following words of the same family with Loki evoke this phase. Doka, to expand. Makutu madoka, fine ears. The verb doka, from the perspective of this development, include the concept of submission, persuasion, education, and extension of the scope of the senses. This verb means to receive instruction that allows one to submit a vile personality and to awaken or extend the ethereal faculty. From this word comes the word ndoki. And from ndoki comes kindoki. From the above development, we can say that the word kindoki refers to the three practical phase of the initiatory process. This word ndoki refers therefore to the one who through rigorous discipline has submitted his negative emotions and human will, and through instruction in the mysteries has risen to a new personality endowed with awakened or extended ethereal faculties. A true ndoki is a brave, a wise, a powerful, someone on whom the society can rely for its protection, development, and for the maintenance of the balance in the community, and for the healing of the community. Someone endowed with spiritual, ethereal, mental, physical skills. In summary, the Congo Academies were schools of kindoki, or the mystery teachings, intended to teach the candidates how to use the divine spirits in order to develop one's power as the divine or human expression of the Logos, the fullness of the divinity. Thank you.